and that is the annexation of the West Bank, or, depending on your politics, applying Israeli sovereignty onto Jewish communities of Judea and Samaria. If you ask an Israeli kid to draw a map of Israel, they will probably draw something like that. But if you look at the map of Israel on any given atlas or on Google Maps, you will always see that dotted line carving out what is called the West Bank. And many people envision this piece of land, about the size of Delaware, as Palestine. However, this dotted line is not a Palestinian Authority border. It is the border of disputed territories. Disputed. That is why the line is dotted. In fact, only 40% of this territory is under Palestinian control, and 60%, known as Area C, is under Israeli control. This is according to the Oslo Accords signed by the leader of the Organization for Liberation of Palestine, PLO, Yasser Arafat, and Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. They both won Nobel Peace Prize for that 40-60% deal in 1994. So what Netanyahu's government, backed up by the current US administration, will try to do in July 2020 is to apply Israeli sovereignty to Area C that is already under Israeli control. There are about 500,000 Jews living in Area C. How many Arabs? No one is quite sure about that, not even the Palestinian Authority. Estimates vary between 150,000 to 50,000 Arabs. Is the sovereignty going to be applied to the entire Area C or just to Jewish communities, excluding Palestinian towns and villages? And if the Arabs are to be included, will they get Israeli citizenship or some other residential status? It remains to be discovered. But what does it actually mean, applying Israeli sovereignty? Right now, Jewish Israeli citizens living in Israeli-controlled parts of Judea and Samaria are not subject to Israeli law, but rather to what is called Israeli military order. This military order is carried out by Israeli military police and military courts instead of a civil court. Applying Israeli sovereignty will, therefore, extend the Israeli civic law to Israeli citizens and declare the territories in question as a legitimate part of sovereign Israel, just like Haifa or Tel Aviv. So it is a symbolic political statement of a great magnitude. But do not expect Israeli troops moving in. They have already been there from day one. The sovereignty can be either thin, including only the Jewish communities and their municipal boundaries, or extended to additional open areas. It looks like at this point, Arab settlements in the Israeli-controlled Area C will not be included in this expansion. Certainly not areas A and B controlled by the Palestinian Authority, at least not in July 2020. Why is Israeli right wing pushing for sovereignty? Because it redefines the narrative from occupied or disputed territories to sovereign Israeli Judea and Samaria. Because it provides clarity and direction, and because it is an insurance policy for the Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria against possible future evacuations and disengagement. The Jewish communities in Gaza, for instance, were under Israeli military order, not under Israeli sovereignty, and they were dismantled in 2005, uprooting 18 communities and almost 9,000 Jews. But once the Israeli sovereignty is applied to a territory, Jewish communities can only be removed with 75% majority in the Knesset or with a referendum. Why is Israeli right in such a hurry to do it now? Because it has the backing of the current US administration. Make hay while the sun shines. So what are the concerns that the opponents of the annexation raise? First of all, economic and social. The Israeli left, just like the Israeli right, are not thrilled about absorbing a hostile Muslim population and granting them full democratic rights and social economical benefits. The response to that point vary from, oh, we're not going to apply sovereignty to Arab settlements, to, well, that's okay, the Arabs are what, 50, 150,000, not a biggie, definitely absorbable. Another argument is the repercussions Israel is expected to face from the international community. And this is certainly an important concern. It is safe to predict that some countries in the West, and naturally in the Muslim world, will be outraged and initiate diplomatic, judicial, and economic sanctions. That said, this is not going to be the first or the last time Israel will be dealing with that type of backlash. Some say that this move will put an end to the hopes for the two-state solution. Others respond that this solution was never viable, or vice versa. We already have the two-state solution on the ground, the State of Israel and the quasi-state of the autonomous Palestinian Authority. Trump's peace plan is certainly based on a two-state solution, offering the Palestinian Arabs a state significantly larger than what they have now. Another important drawback to consider is a possible escalation of violence from Palestinian Authority, from Gaza, or neighboring countries. Or quite the opposite, a collapse of the Palestinian Authority or Jordan. And these are all real and probable scenarios to consider, regardless of whether Israel extends its sovereignty or not. Oddly enough, Israel is a strong and viable player, radiating stability to the otherwise tumultuous Middle Eastern region. What do Israelis think of that move? Well, election is the most reliable poll we have to answer that question. 60% of Jews want the application of Israeli sovereignty. This is exactly what they voted for. The other 40% of Jews will range from indifference to moderate or fierce opposition. And, of course, overwhelming majority of Muslim Arab citizens are definitely naysayers.